Hey there geeks and geekettes, this is the Bearded Geeks Halloween Rundown. So this is my second sort of list. It's not a top 10 list because there's more than 10 films. However, I have taken some films out of the running, or 2 movies out of the running. So, number 9 on the list, Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers. The only thing more terrifying than how it started is how it ends, and that couldn't be further from the truth. Now, this film isn't completely useless. There are some good kills in there. Obviously, Donald Pleasence he looked and sounded quite ill on the making of this, and his performance was limited through that. But he still gave it his all, and he's still sort of the best thing about this. The actual Myers mask in this isn't as bad as some other entries. But Paul Rudd, I think this was his first feature film. It was released as his second feature film, but he recorded this first, but then Clueless came out before it. A little bit of useless trivia that I store up in there. Not the strongest, but it's still watchable, and I do watch it now and again. Number 8, Halloween 5. The Revenge of Michael Myers. Michael lives, and this time they're ready. Now, this film would have been higher in the list had it not been for one character. I can't remember her name, but she is so annoying, dancing about and singing and just no. They've unfortunately turned Danielle Harris into a mute for most of this film, which doesn't exactly show off her acting skills, which is a bit of a travesty. And they also started the film almost ignoring the ending of Halloween 4, where Jamie is almost left to be the new Myers. She does something at the end of Halloween 4 that sets her up to be another Michael Myers. This film completely scrapes past it. But Donald Pleasence, again, is brilliant in this. I actually like the guy that played the Shape in this too. So, still not the strongest of entries, but it's more than passable. I do watch it every now and again. Next up, at number 7, Halloween 2, Family is Forever, the Rob Zombie Halloween. Now, this film was torn apart by critics and fans, and I like it. The films get a lot stronger from this point in. Now, I liked the remake. I'm fully aware that Michael is better without a backstory, but it was a remake that didn't just retread the ground we've gone over before. It wasn't a scene-for-scene remake like the Psycho remake. So I was quite happy with that. If I want to watch Michael without a backstory, or, you know, his backstory is very limited to he killed his sister, goes to an asylum, I'm cool with that. I'm also cool with this sort of redneck thing that went on in the Halloween previous to this. This film is bloodthirsty. It's brutal. I love the cast. I love the fact that they used Danielle Harris as another character in there. Sherry Moon Zombie, actually, in these 2 films, is the best I've seen her act, because she gets real annoying real quick in every Rob Zombie film that he does. I love Tyler Mane as Michael. The presence of the guy is massive and very intimidating and a very scary Myers. The biggest mistake with this film was having Michael Myers speak. I think that was a bonus scene. I'm not sure if he was in the original theatrical cut. I think it's in this, and they should never have Michael speak. Number 6, Rob Zombie's Halloween Uncut. Now, this wasn't quite as polarising as Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, but there's still sort of split Halloween fans 50-50. Some loved it, some hated it. I actually loved this different take. As I said in my previous video, I like the redneck background. There was a lot of swearing for swearing's sake, but it's a Rob Zombie film, and I'm glad he didn't just retread what we have seen before. It was a very different, very brutal take on a story we all know. Obviously, Daniel Harris was in there. Brad Dourif was in there, who is also the voice of Chucky. He was sort of Charles Lee Ray before he became Chucky. Obviously, Tyler Mane was his first shout as Michael Myers, and the guy is awesome at it. Can't remember the kid's name that plays young Michael, but he does a really good job. You can see the serial killer in him, and when he sort of goes blank behind the eyes, the kid pulls off evil. And I actually really enjoyed this. I like the look of Michael. I absolutely loved Malcolm McDowell's rendition of Loomis. It was nice that not even Loomis was a retread of the original. It was an original idea, and I respect the movie for that. Number 5, Halloween H2O. This was the first Halloween that I got to see in the cinema. I don't think I was quite 18 when this came out, was I? I might have been. But I went to go and see this, and I loved this film. For years, this was my second favourite Halloween. And as you can tell, this slipped down the list quite a bit. It hasn't aged as well. The CGI mask let it down. As did the constant changing of the mask. But the story as a whole was really cool. What I didn't like was obviously Josh Hartnett's character. Now, Josh Hartnett played the character well, but it dismissed anything with Daniel Harris's character as young Jamie, which I know why they did it, but Daniel Harris's sort of story, it was a good story, and they could have done a soft reboot maybe and kept Daniel Harris as Jamie's daughter as opposed to her having a son. I think they dropped the ball a little there. But this film was I really enjoyed it. There's some really cool deaths in there. The sort of impending doom of Myers after these kids and Laurie Strode. I actually liked it. And obviously to get Laurie Strode to come back and do this movie, Jamie Lee Curtis to come back after she said she was done with horror, was a feat in itself. It's just so unfortunate that they made Ressurection, because that took a massive dump over this film. Completely ruined what was actually a really good ending to the initial franchise. They could have done Halloween 1, 2 and this, and it being a nice trilogy, but unfortunately they had to go one step further, and then we got judo kicking, and reality TV just didn't work. It didn't work at all, and this film suffers because of it. I actually enjoyed LL Cool J in this as well. His character was quite cool, quite funny. And yeah, I liked this. It was obviously sort of the Scream era, and this was more in the vein of Scream than the previous Halloween, but I enjoyed it. Next on the list, number 4, Halloween 2. Now, this film was such a change in direction. It was meant to be a direct sequel that carried on from where Halloween 1 finished. And obviously we were all quite aware that Jamie Lee Curtis was wearing a wig. They also left Jamie Lee Curtis just laying in a hospital bed for a large chunk of the film, not really doing anything. And that lets the film down a bit, but I still really, really enjoy this film. Obviously Samuel Loomis is the focal point more than Jamie Lee Curtis's Laurie Strode this time around. And Myers' kills in this, they are some of the coolest kills of the franchise, barring obviously the number 1 entry. And again, I really enjoyed this film. You sort of ignore the obvious wig and the fact that Michael Myers seems to have gained a few pounds in a few hours, because his mask is suddenly stretched over his face and looks wider, as opposed to the sort of streamlined Captain Kirk mask of the original movie. But yeah, I really enjoy this film. I love that this was initially probably meant to kill the Halloween franchise with blowing Loomis and Michael Myers up. It does sort of let Halloween 4 down a little bit, because there was a hospital explosion and all Loomis has is sort of an egg on his face and a little bit of a wrinkly hand. But I really do enjoy this movie. And the scene at the end with the gas canisters, because Michael has been blinded by 2 bullets to the eyes, take away the fact that Jamie Lee Curtis is a really good shot with no experience with a gun apparently, but he's blind and they distract him with noise to survive, and I thought that was a really cool part of the movie. Now, I may get lynched for this, because people will think this has no business being third on the list, but Halloween 4, the return of Michael Myers. Now, I know people hate this film, but I love it. Obviously, it is Daniel Harris's first sort of foot into the Halloween franchise. The mask does not look like the mask on the cover. The mask is a lot wider, a lot whiter and bumpier. At one point, the mask is actually pink-skinned with blonde hair, because somehow they just used a Captain Kirk mask that hadn't been sort of spray painted properly. And mask issues aside, this is a really good movie. The premise is that Jamie Lee Curtis character Laurie Strode has died. Her daughter has been adopted. Her daughter is played by Danielle Harris, and her character's name is Jamie, obviously named after Jamie Lee Curtis. And this movie, I don't know why people hate it so much. There are sort of elements of it that are not as great but as the original, but it's such a good horror movie. It's such a good sort of slasher movie. There's some really good kills in there. Danielle Harris as little Jamie, her acting is brilliant. I mean, she acts a lot of the grown-ups in this movie. Obviously, Donald Pleasence again is Donald Pleasence. He's outstanding. He chews up every scene he's in. And I loved the kills in this. I loved the action in this. I loved most of the cast in this. There was one annoying person in it, but you know, she's not in there that much to ruin the film for me. So, worthy for me for number 3. Number 2 is Halloween 2018. Now, Halloween 2018 is the third hard reboot, and I think it's the fourth soft reboot, really. They did away with everything after the first Halloween. So they've taken the brother-sister dynamic out of it. Everything since the first Halloween ends, and then 40 years later, Michael Myers is back, but he's not hunting for Laurie Strode because it's not his sister. It's Laurie Strode hunting Michael Myers because she's got sort of PTSD. She's an alcoholic. Obviously, it's affected her greatly, and just a really good film. I actually loved the guy that played Michael Myers. He moved exactly like Michael Myers in the original movie. Now, I know the original actor that played Michael in the original Halloween is in this movie, but he's only in there for one scene with a head tilt, I think, when he puts the mask on. Other than that, it's all this new actor, Michael Courtney, something like that. But the guy plays the shape brilliantly. The bathroom scene, or the bathroom stall scene with the two investigators or reporters, that was done so well. The sort of impending doom of Michael banging on that door and then the violence that ensues after. Worthy second place. And of course, my number 1, Halloween, the original. There was never going to be anything else on this list. This movie not only kick-started the Halloween franchise, but it kick-started the slasher franchise. I know it wasn't the first slasher film, but it was the one that sort of spawned the Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, and a billion other copyright slasher films that tried to do what this film did. The fact that it was made on a shoestring budget is incredible. The score is brilliant, considering it was written last minute because test audiences didn't think the film was scary. The score was added, and then suddenly the film was scary. There were some shots in there, like the sort of single frame shot through the house. There's only 2 breaks in the scene with a mask going on and I think a door frame. Absolutely incredible for the time. The Shape is obviously played, I think he's played by 4 people in this in total. There's a female plays him at one point. Deborah Hill plays him in a sort of the odd scene. Mostly is played by Nick Castle, who obviously the walk, the head tilt, and all the rest of it, signature. He's absolutely amazing. And was it Tommy? Can't remember the other guy's name. But one of the producers is actually in the costume at one point. There's plenty of sort of documentaries about it. I have watched them, but my mind's gone blank. This is definitely my number one of the franchise. It started it all. Obviously, Michael Myers was portrayed so well in this that 40 years later, there's still Halloween movies coming out. Freddy Krueger's been and gone. Jason Voorhees has been and gone. Ghostface from Scream has been and gone, although there is a TV show. I've not watched it. So he's stood the test of time, even with some really bad movies. Ressurection. He sort of survived longer than any of the others, and I do like the Nightmare on Elm Street movies up to a point. And I do enjoy a lot of the Friday the 13th movies, but this was sort of the horror film you could take seriously. Shoestring budget, but the acting was brilliant in it, bar one person, I can't remember her name. She just keeps saying the same thing at the end of every sentence and takes you out of it a little bit. Things like the palm trees in the background, because they're really filming in California and not sort of Iowa or wherever it was meant to have been, wherever Haddonfield was meant to be. But obviously Nick Castle plays the shape brilliantly. Some of the lighting used in this film is brilliant. When Michael's face slowly gets lit up, stood behind Jamie Lee Curtis in a doorway. Absolutely brilliant. Probably my favourite horror film of all time. Or if not, depending on the day, this is the top of my list. Especially when it comes to around Halloween time. This is always the film I go to. So guys, that was my Halloween list. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And obviously I left 2 movies out with good reason. One of them for not really being part of the franchise. One of them for being an absolute train wreck of a movie. So like, comment, share, subscribe, help the channel out. And I'll see you guys soon. Thanks for tuning in. Goodbye.